Hey everybody, my name is John DePietro, and I want to thank you for taking time from your busy day to view this special, and I say special because this is going to be really special, edition of what we call My Life with Kenny Rogers. But folks, don't worry, it's not about my life with Kenny Rogers. It's about the lives of the guests that we have on our show. And I said to you, tonight's going to be special, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you that this is one of a series of, you could call them commemorative videos that we're doing on people who've worked with Kenny Rogers over his illustrious 55 to 60-year career in entertainment and show business. And if you like this and want to get a copy of all of them, down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little button that says subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button, and another button will come up that's a bell. Hit the bell, and then every time we get a new one, you're going to be the first to get it before the general public. Remember, this special offer is not available in stores. It won't cost you anything. So all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, sit back and relax. And speaking of sitting back and relaxing, our guest tonight is sitting back and relaxing. And we want to welcome you here to a very special family member, Kenny's brother, Roy Rogers. Roy, welcome to a show about your family.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
So, you know what? So much has been said about Kenny and, you know, over the years, and especially since he left us back in March, more and more people talk about his legacy. And what we want to do during this brief time is to really get the story behind the story, because, you know, you see the stories on the back of the album covers and the CDs and et cetera, et cetera. Those are all written by PR people who craft every word. But what we want is the true story from the heart as to what it was like growing up with, as you all would call him, Kenneth, right?
Kenneth.
Wasn't Kenny?
No.
Okay. When did he go from Kenneth to Kenny?
I don't know. I thought Leland gave him that, or Ken Cragen. I'm not sure which one, or maybe I'm wrong, but I thought Leland was the mother of that project.
Okay. So Roy, tell us, where do you fall in the family in relation to, were there 6 kids?
No, there's actually 8.
8, okay. So where do you fall chronologically in that mix?
Well, I'm 8 years younger than Kenny. And that would make me the number 6 kid.
Okay. But you were the far superior one as far as athletic talent and everything else, right?
Well, we.
I hear laughter coming from the background.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead.
No. Go right ahead.
Okay.
You're on the roll.
You know, so many times you'd hear Kenny from the stage talk about humble beginnings, back in a housing project in Houston or right outside of Houston. Tell us specifically what it was like there.
Well, it was back then. You had to have good credit to get in there. You couldn't. They just wasn't taking anybody. You had to have a job. So while it was bad, I'm not sure, you know, the worst times sometimes turn out to be the best. And it was a group of people. We still, I don't, but Sandy keeps up with some of our people that grew up, not with me, but with Kenny and my other sister, Geraldine. But it wasn't that bad. It was only bad when you started noticing it, you know, and the clothes that was being worn. My mother told me, because I complained about wearing stuff with patches on them, and she said, "Look, son, they're clean. That's all you got to worry about. They're clean."
So you were wearing the patches on them because a couple other brothers got them before you?
Yeah, but size might have been different at that time.
Okay. Okay, no problem there. Now, when we talked last week before taping, you said I got to tell you a couple stories about one of them about Kenny being in the National Guard and driving a tank during some type of Memorial Day or 4th of July parade. Tell our viewers about that, because I don't think Kenny ever talked about this from the stage.
No, I've never heard him repeat it. And sometimes well, he's gone now, so everything's coming out. But, you know, I don't recall him ever bringing it up or mentioning it after so long. It's just, but that's the way he was. He'd forget about something, and then wham, it'd come to him, and then, you know, and then we'd talk about it. But
okay.
We went to a parade. My mother gathered us up. There was, I don't know if Randy went or not, but anyway, 3 or 4 of the kids went, and we were standing there on the corner, and I looked and I noticed, you know, I saw him coming. He was driving the thing, and it's where I guess you sit on top and your feet are inside, and they're on the shoulders of the guy that's actually driving. So if you put weight on your left, he's going to kind of turn left.
Oh.
First, they're on the right, and you know they have all that stuff worked out supposedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, but that's not the case in Kenny's situation. Because
Okay.
I pulled at my mother's dress. I said, "Mother, is that supposed to be like that?" And she looked down and she said, "No, son, it's not." And that was the end of that part of it. But he had run over before they had solid esplanades. They had round disc with a spike in them to hold them in place. And Kenny had took that the tracks on that tank and ran over almost a whole block of them. And you know, if you know, we talked about if you ever really notice, he looks to his side sometimes. I think it's his right side he favors or whatever, but I'm not sure that was a part of that, but I think he used that to get out of it. But he got hit in the head with a bat at a very young age playing softball. But anyway, get back to the tank. That was the only thing he ever said about it was, "I think I hold the record for the fastest guy to ever be kicked out."
Out of the National Guard.
In Houston.
That's
And I said, "Well, you probably do, brother." But that was the last of that, you know.
That's too funny. Again, one of those stories. You know, Kenny used to talk about a lot of stuff from way back in Houston at various times in the show, you know, to introduce a new song or something like that. But that's certainly one that that he never used to talk about, probably for good reason. So your role on tour, Roy, what was your role on tour when the Juggernaut was out there doing, you know, not stadiums, but the Superdome and the Pontiac Silverdome and Madison Square Garden? What did you do?
Well, it was my job to come early and like at 4 o'clock, and I would go around and see, I would actually walk the whole building to see where the exits were and where emergency vehicles could get in and out without much problems, to include an ambulance. So I had to have that in my mind, how it's going to work. And that was the first part. And then I got to walk everybody to the stage, all the ones that wanted to be, and like Dolly and the guys we didn't kind of mess with. But all the girls we wanted to, Mark and I wanted to escort them. And it was really just to keep people from reaching out, because sometimes they were up high on the stage and they could reach up and trip them with a hand. So we tried to keep that from happening.
Yeah.
And if Mary Ann was at the show with Christopher, I would sit in the audience next to her and, just keep an eye on her and Christopher and make sure she got out at the right time at the last song.
Oh, so to not get stuck in the crowd.
Right, because that song, Band on the Move, oh boy, that band was moving. If they wanted to go to the farm, and Edgar liked to fish.
Oh.
Yeah. So I took him to all the ponds and lakes on the farm, and we would fish after the show. Get there at 12 o'clock, and then everybody would go and get a boat or something. I had plastic boats, and they could go fishing. But part of my job was to get Mary Ann through the crowd and into the exit, the proper exit where the limo was waiting, to get her into the limo and then make sure she got off.
That vehicle got out while the crowd was still sitting in the seats, right? This must have been before Islands in the Stream.
Yeah, well, that crowd, Kenny was sometimes, depending on the airport, he was slow. He was getting in his plane before a lot of them got out of their seats.
Yep.
That's the way he said. Elvis used to do that sometimes, and that's the way I'd like to do it too, to beat all the people and the crowds wanting to, stop him. But he wanted to get home. He couldn't wait.
Yep. That you bring up a very interesting point. And then I got another question for you about taking the ladies to the stage. But one day we're at Cape Cod in a little tent that used to be, actually it's still open. Of course, it's closed this summer because nobody's there. But I had to drive Kenny to the airport that night. It's only like a 3-mile run from the tent to the airport. And again, as soon as Islands was over, he's back out, gets in the van, and we shuttled him to the airport. So I get back to the building, and I'm standing around the dressing room waiting for Gene Roy. We're probably going to go out and, have a coffee or something after the show. And lady comes up to me who was from a famous political family in Massachusetts. I won't get into who they were, and said, I want to see Kenny. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but he's not here. And she said, don't you know who I am? Of course I did, but I'm not going to tell her that. And she said, well, we see him all the time. And just as she said that, the plane flew right over us. I said, Liam, it's a little bit late because there he is.
Yeah.
Up there in the plane. So, he did get to the airport quick. Now, the other thing that I want to follow up a question with is that you had said that you brought the ladies to the stage. It's probably important to say that that was when they had the big circular stage in the middle of the arena floor, that sometimes they had to walk a good distance from the backstage area to get onto the stage, right, Roy?
That's right. And you had all the wires, cables. Kenny had, I don't know what was involved on the water. He had to have water for the certain machinery.
The laser.
Yeah. So those pipes were back there, and, we just had to do that because you never know, somebody would fall and get really hurt. So that was part of my job.
That was the part that, it was the dirty part of the job, but somebody had to do it, right?
That's right.
Taking Dolly by the arm and walking her through the crowd.
Well, I don't know. Dolly's different. If you ever watched her, and Kenny mentions it, she walks like a soldier with her arms going back and forth.
Swinging her arms?
Yeah. And I don't care, you don't hold them, you just put your arm in their back and keep their balance for them on this trip.
Especially
But,
with those shoes that she used to wear, and then she'd have to go over all the cables, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, she'd swing those arms, and she was getting where she was hitting me in my privates. And I told her one night, I said, Dolly, I don't mind helping you, and that's part of my job, but if you keep swinging them hands, I'm gonna have to get something to either hold your hands down or cover something that you're hitting. She said, well, okay, do what you need to do.
Do what you need to do. What was she like backstage? Because I remember being at a show with her, and I didn't even know who she was prior to showtime.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, she's got those wigs, and she used to have a girl named Judy that would help her get dressed with her hair, and and so she did hide out. She didn't want to be seen, obviously, while she was putting her wigs and stuff on. So she did hide sometimes.
Was she a joker backstage, or was she just stay in her own room and not hang out with anybody else?
Well, she'd come out and but she wouldn't hang around and talk to you. Just in the process of doing what you do for work, getting her to the stage, and then we had to get her to bring her off. So those two things is when we had the most fun with her. And she can get pretty rowdy sometimes.
Yeah, right. Now, you at one time when you were dealing with the show, there was virtually no aspect of the show that there wasn't a Rogers person involved in. And Leland, you said Leland was the one who kind of recruited you, your older brother Leland, right? Talk about Leland and what he did and how he rescued you from the military.
Well, I don't really know what he did. He was pretty good about not telling anybody, but he was kind of the cleanup man. He took care of all the problems. If you had a problem and it might involve getting Kenny involved in it or something, you went to Leland and took care of it that way, and took, so Kenny didn't have to deal with a lot of the problems. And there wasn't of that problem. It's just, maybe somebody's per diem, they didn't think they got the right amount.
Yep.
Or they, because everybody, you couldn't ask for a better job, really. But I just, I'm trying to think of, yeah, I know. My wife is prompting me.
Yeah. What's new with that, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So talk a little bit about, again, Leland was the boss, but he had like 3 kids, at least 3 or 4 kids that were on the road with you at all. Was there ever a, hey, my father said I'm going to do this, and you told him to do something else?
No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all, because Leland wouldn't put up with that. He was pretty much the guy that took care of all the problems. So he wouldn't cause a problem. He'd fix it. And he would fire you if he felt like you weren't participating. And I won't mention any names, but he's got a few of them that you've had on your little deal here that he had to get rid of. And he didn't enjoy it, but some things you just don't do. If it's one thing Kenny didn't like, is being mean to the audience, or, he used to tell me all the time, don't grab them, don't grab them. They, you're going to hurt them, you're going to pull them down. I said, Kenny, I'm just blocking them. I'm not grabbing nobody. But he was very worried about his image.
So did you guys ever have staff meetings where Kenny would, like say you were going into a big building, that, like the Superdome? I don't know if you ever did those shows, but did Kenny ever like pull you together before the show and say, hey, this is what we got to do tonight. This is what's riding on this show. And
no, not so much that, but I know we had a problem with the guy. I had to go through all the fan mail, read it, and see if there was anybody that we needed to do something with. And so this one guy's name kept coming up. And, so Kenny, he didn't talk in front of everybody, but he got me and Rob and Mark and somebody else, one of the other guys, Bruce, off to the side, and he said, if this guy shows up, you're gonna have to deal with him. So anyway, the guy showed up and we dealt with it, and but that's the only time he's ever called me in. I'll be quite honest with you, John. I think he favored me a lot, simply because, and Leland did tremendously by getting me that job and getting me out of the military, because Kenny never said no to me when I asked him for anything, and I knew better than to ask him for a lot. But he was my best man. Flew all the way. You remember the show they were doing, Rolling on the River?
Oh yeah, with the first edition.
Yeah. Well, I called him and said, Kenny, I'm getting married, so and so and so. Would you be my best man? And he said, sure, I'll be there. Tell me where, when, and he flew all the way from Canada to Houston. He just, I think it was because I went to Vietnam. And Leland, he really pampered me and pushed me along to get me into the job, and that he thought I should be doing, because I had special training in Israel with the military and in Germany. And so Leland always felt like, hey, you ought to be in there looking out for me and Kenny instead of out here messing around with the
exactly
thing. So,
when we were talking earlier, you said, I got some notes here. Go to your notes, Roy, and see what some of the things that are special on your mind that you wrote down before that I don't know, because again, we don't rehearse these shows. I don't send you the questions in advance. We just have a conversation. So give me some of those bullet points, or you have your cast of thousands back there, your wife and your son. Ask them.
They're non-payers. They snuck in. I don't know nothing about them.
They snuck in.
Yeah. I know Kenny loved to play softball, and he thought he could pitch. He loved to pitch slow pitch in softball. And so I got a women's softball team in Georgia there, and he sponsored them, but I just kind of hung out with them anyway. They played Kenny and whoever else, Junkerman and
Kelly,
some other ones, and so he I don't know if he beat him or not. I don't even remember that day because I couldn't stand to watch it.
You had to go back to the show.
Yeah.
You had to go back to the show.
And I'll tell you one thing, I guarantee you that you don't know nothing about if you'd like to know it.
Go ahead.
Kenny would come by our house. I don't know where he was staying at. Maybe, I don't know, one of whatever, first wife. Anyway, he would get a plastic gallon, and he would turn that thing up and drink 3/4 of it.
Of water or milk or what?
Milk.
What? Milk.
Milk. Yeah, and as soon as he drank that, he'd go over to the faucet and fill it up with water. And then he'd put it back in the ice box. But we had watered milk many times.
Kenny was the milk thief?
Yeah, yeah.
Did he must have got caught. You must have seen him somewhere.
Yeah, he got caught several times, but nobody, nobody worried about that stuff. Hell, a lot of our my cereal I ate, I used water instead of milk.
So was that when the milk was in the glass?
No,
it was in the plastic. Okay.
Yeah, in the plastic. But
okay. This is when he was what? This is when y'all were growing up together, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going back to my notes. One time he had a very nice looking woman, girlfriend.
Yep.
And he brought her to the house. Well, she, I guess, made the mistake of whispering something in Kenny's ear. She didn't like being there because it was below her standards or something, And she kept
back in the project.
Yeah. Well, no, it's right after we came out of the project, and we thought we had done pretty good.
Yeah.
And then this girl to come in and make fun of us, but Kenny, after a few minutes, Kenny got up and went over to the phone, and the girl said, "Kenny, are we leaving now?" And he said, "No, but you are." and he called her a taxi and put her in the taxi.
Oh, but you are. That's funny.
I'm not going anywhere, but you are.
That's funny. I ain't going
nowhere.
So let me ask you this, Roy. Those celebrity events, those golf tournament things, did you work any of those with with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and any of those that were at the ranch?
No, I lived right there on the farm.
Yeah.
So I did go in and I sat around and watched the basketball part and the fishing part. Kenny and Mary Ann wanted me to go show them where all the fish were and which part of the pond or the lake, so they could go in there and catch them all. And I guess they were getting, first place, second place, or whatever. But that's one of the things I had to do was show them where the fish was.
And hope that the fish had stayed there where you told them they were.
Yeah, well, that's the best I could do. I put them in the lake. I don't know what happened after that.
No, that's too funny. Hey, that picture that you have on your left shoulder there, is that Kenny or you?
Oh, I got to show you that. I guess you probably can't see it. You talking about this one?
Yeah. I don't know who it is, but.
Oh, you're going to find out in just a minute. Now, you can't see anything on it, can you? Can you read the writing?
Oh, to Roy. Oh, it's the other Roy Rogers.
That's right.
To Roy Rogers. And is that you and Roy Rogers?
That's right. In the dressing room at where the convention center or whatever in LA. Kenny called. I was staying the weekend with Kenny anyway, and he said, "Come on," and he made a phone call to a couple of the guys, Christian minstrels. I can see their face, but I can't think of their name. Anyway, they got in the car and we drove over to it wasn't a building, it was like a rodeo arena. And he said, "Come on, I got somebody here I want you to meet." So he took me over to their dressing room and introduced me to Dale and Roy.
Oh, that's too funny.
And Kenny, and then that picture is one Kenny took of me and him. And it says from one Roy Rogers to another.
Right.
That's what it says.
And
Kenny got it signed for me, sent it off, to him. And that was very nice of Kenny. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah. So go back to your notes. What are some other crazy stories that we'd never hear about that won't get us in trouble?
Well, I'm saving some good ones. Uh, let's see.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're
Yeah.
just tuning in, we're talking with Roy Rogers, brother of Kenny Rogers, and we're talking about some family things that you won't see on the back of album covers.
No. We wanted to go on a vacation because we'd never been on one. I say we, not Kenny, but me and my other brother Billy and Sandy and Randy and Mother and Daddy. We had never been anywhere really, so we decided we were going to go to Carlsbad Caverns in
New Mexico.
Yeah. And so we got the scratch in our head. My daddy said, "Wait a minute." He said, "I can't get all this stuff in the car. What are we going to do?" And somebody said, I don't know if I did or not, but somebody said, "Well, Bobby Doyle's got a trailer." So, so we asked Kenny, could we use Bobby Doyle's, their equipment trailer? And it had that Bobby Doyle's name on the side of it, Houston and that.
So Kenny's not a star now. If Kenny's still working with Bobby, right?
No,
Kenny's not a star.
No. So anyway, we would take that thing and we slept in the trailer with the canvas over the top. Not everybody, just me and the kids did. My mom and dad stayed in the car, but because we couldn't afford a Holiday Inn or anything like that. But I wonder what people were thinking driving by seeing Bobby Doyle Trio, and they count heads and there's about 7 people, So
more than the trio.
Oh yeah, more than the trio.
Yep.
But Kenny, I guess he asked Bobby. I don't know, but Bobby couldn't see anyway, so I don't know if he knew he was gone or not. But we finally had that one vacation, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, as the tour went on, your mother used to come out to the shows, right?
Oh yes.
What was it like? Yes. Was she still running the show then, telling Kenneth what to do?
Yeah, no, she knew a little bit better than that. But if she was out on the road, I stayed with her, and I rode in the bus with her. Kenny always wanted somebody to ride with her. So, and I don't know if you ever seen the show where he'd introduce her, and she'd make the hand like this. That's the way she'd wave to him, like that. And Kenny made fun of it, and boy, she got mad about that. But now I'll tell you what she did do. Alan Hill was her driver at the time. And Alan would say he would go and pick her up at her house in Crockett, Texas, where she lived, and get on the bus. And sometimes one of her sisters that lived there in town would go with her. But anyways, they'd take off to wherever it was. And if my mother saw some place to fish, she'd just tell Alan, pull over. And she'd get out and walk across the fence and get out and fish in somebody's pond, That's how much she liked to fish. But Kenny just couldn't believe she'd do that. But she did.
So your mother was a fisher. I can't say fisherman, but she was an angler.
Yep. And I think what she wanted to put on her gravestone, she drowned her last minnow. That's what she wanted on it.
And is it on it?
Yeah, well, something to that effect's on it, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny. So basically when, is that where Kenny's desire to have the pond, did he have the pond built at the farm, or was that already there?
Oh, well, he had a few of them maybe dug out or something, but those were all, they went with the golf course. You know how they have a water thing on the golf course. So there was plenty of those all over the place.
Yeah. Hey, talk about some of the guys in the band that you were with those years.
Oh, Edgar and me were partners for a while. I mean, he didn't talk about any of his bat turns he used to make driving. If he'd get lost or, he'd just turn that thing right around in the middle of the traffic and all.
Oh, this
So,
is when you were driving cars to the venue?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
After
the
you get off the
band,
plane?
yeah. Yeah. And Edgar, that's what we call Edgar when you do them bat turns. Uh, Edgar I hung out with, I liked Edgar. And Bobby was really somebody that Bobby and I hung out a lot. Uh, and yeah, it really hurt me when he got into all that mess. But
And Randy and Chuck?
well, Randy, he had his wife there all the time. So, and Chuck, he liked to eat too much. I couldn't keep up with eating.
Chuck.
Every time he stopped for a minute, he wanted to look for something to eat, someplace to eat.
You know what? That continued because Chuck was kind of like, whenever the band would stop somewhere, Chuck would be in charge of finding the restaurants, or he put himself in charge of finding the restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he was good at it.
Yep. Then Steve.
Steve was my joke man. He loved to tell jokes. Hey, come here, I got a new one for you, And I'd tell him if I had some, but he loved to tell jokes. And his wife, she's crazy as he is, really.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The rest of them, I kind of.
Then there was Rick and Gene.
Rick was he was I don't know, not somebody I would hang out with. He wasn't very vocal in telling jokes.
Quiet
he just,
guy.
Yeah, he's a quiet kind of guy.
Quiet
and
guy.
Who did I miss?
Gene Golden.
Gene. Oh, I like Gene. I used to go to his house after he left, and work on music because I couldn't believe that record he had given me, or that tape, was all off that synthesizer and everything.
Okay.
So he would show me how that stuff worked, and I loved to learn about that. But
okay. So you were there with the planes, right?
Oh yeah.
What was that Bach 111 like? How was it all set up inside and everything?
Well, it had, I think that's the one that had a bed in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
And then it had individual bunks in it. Not a bunch, but back in the back of it. But let me tell you a story. On the small jet that he had, that was a fighter plane originally.
Oh, is that right?
So it could do tricks. I mean, it was pretty good.
That wasn't the one with the name Christopher on it, was it?
I'm not sure if it was or not.
Okay.
I don't know too much about planes, but the pilot on that, I wish you'd talk to him, Louis Panuski. He's him and Kenny got along extra well. And I won't tell you all the things, but I'd love to take off and go straight up almost, because it would pin you to the seat, and that's what that plane was for.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I'd ask Kenny when we start hey man, can we do one of those max vertical takeoff? He said, all right, go tell Louis. So I went up there and I'd tell Louis, and they loved it, because they'd call the tower and tell them, And anyway, we did it and took off and went straight up. It seemed like straight up. And then after we leveled out, I went back to tell Kenny thanks. And I said, well, how was that? Do you like that? He said, yeah, that's pretty good. He said, do you have any idea how much gas that cost me for that little?
That's too funny. So, I mean, Kenny had that rare talent to be both an artist and a businessman, didn't he?
Yeah. And let me see, I got something on that, but yeah, and I asked him about it sometime. One time I said, Kenny, how do you manage to do all these deals and you always come out on top? He said, well, here you go. I'm going to show you. So he got his hands up and he said, you see this? If everything works out okay and this is good, I'll do it. If the bad is more than the good, I won't touch it. And that's what he told me. That was his theory on business deals.
Yeah, because at that level, where he was pretty much a household name, and anywhere he went, the seas parted. There could be a lot of people that want to latch onto him and take his money and take him down the wrong road.
Oh yeah, but they would. He's too smart for that. But, he's really too smart for that. And his other philosophy, he always told me and my brother Randy. Oh, Randy, oh my goodness. He said, okay, if you want something, you're going to ask me for it, and that's fine. Be prepared to hear no, because a lot of times you're going to hear no instead of yes. So that was one of his things. And then, and he said, 100% sure if you don't ask, you ain't going to get it.
Okay.
That was his thing. And he said, no, yes or no. That was what his thing was. If you hear no, don't be mad. That's just part of the thing. Mm. But he never told me no. And I spent a lot of money on the farm for security, but he wouldn't care if you had explained to him how it worked. I mean, he really had a great mind for that stuff, because I took the time to explain, well, this is what this is for, and this is what it does. And then he knew what it did, so he wasn't, if I told him, well, Kenny, I had a console built for the house because we had a guard that stayed in the house with them 24 hours a day, monitoring the security camera. And he said, well, how much did this cost me, by the way? I'm just wondering. And I said, well, would you be mad if I told you 70,000? He said, no, that's okay. But he might have, if I had said $70, he might have got mad, You never know which way it's going to go with him.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Did you ever have any crazy security stories of crazy fans trying to get into the farm?
There was always, but I had a guard at the gate, so couldn't get in. But yeah, there was a lot of people that came by there and wanted in, and it would just be nice to them, is what he always said. Be very polite and don't be mean to anybody.
Everybody tells me that. Everybody that I've talked to in this series have always said, Kenny said, don't be mean to anybody. And I'm wondering if there's any of it that goes back to when he was an opening act, that he and his band didn't get treated properly. I won't get into names now, but a couple of the guys.
Tell you, I wouldn't do that, but
a couple of the guys mentioned that they wouldn't let him use the microphones, and Bobby had to play one show in the dark because they wouldn't let him use their lights.
Well, Bobby could play in the dark anyway. I mean, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of it had that, caused that, but he just was, he was very fair. I mean, and sometimes you didn't even have to ask him. And I used to babysit Christopher. And one time we were at the some golf course, and he was inside with somebody probably showing him about the golf course, where to build, how to build it, and whatever. And he said, okay, you have Christopher back at 6:30 because Mary Ann is going to want to go somewhere special. I said, okay. So I got out there, and I stuck my hand down one of them holes, and I brought it back up, and there wasn't no watch on it. I had lost it somewhere. I wasn't sure where I lost it. So I looked at it, and I said, Christopher, we got to go. So we got there, and sure enough, I was late. But he didn't say anything right away. But I'll tell you what he did. In that big house, the Dino De Lorenzo house.
Oh, out in Hollywood?
Yeah. He called me up to a meeting he was in, and man, that table probably had 10 or 15 people, guys sitting around it. And I'm sure they were some big hoop-de-doos. But anyway, he called me up there, and he said, he told his helper, Randy Kessler, he said, Randy, give that box to Roy. And so he handed it to me and told me, and he said, open it. And I opened it, and it was one of those $26,000 Rolexes.
Rolexes.
Yeah. And he said, I bet you won't be late no more, will you?
And how long had it been from when you lost the watch to?
Probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it was. But his thing was, there was always sometimes a lesson when something like that happened. And he was serious. Well, I bet you won't be late again, you know. And I took that to, yeah, I don't think I will be. But
No, not with this one.
No, not with this watch.
Where is it now?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. Somebody that works for Delta's has it.
Somebody works for Delta.
Yeah. And, you know, he doesn't know that, and I never told him.
Oh, that's too funny.
I never would tell him.
Mm. So as we wind down here, Roy, how do you want the world to remember your brother?
Oh, boy. I think just like they're doing now. I mean, he's getting so much stuff on Facebook from his fan club. And I'd like to see that continue, but, you know, I know it's not going to go on forever. But the way they're doing it now is pretty good. I mean, it's I don't know that he would like it. I don't mean he wouldn't like it, but I just think sometimes he you know, you got caught up in that stuff as much as everybody else did. And I don't think he liked the pawing over him, as my mother would say.
Yeah, just a regular guy at home.
Yeah, just a regular guy that would treat you right, and that's all he asked, to be treated right. And, you know, that don't try and steal from him, but somebody told me, I think Leland told me one time, if you're going to steal from Kenny, don't take a dime. You better take $1,000, because it's the same punishment as far as Kenny's concerned.
The same punishment. Wow. Whatever. Well, Roy, we want to thank you so much for spending your time with us to, you know, bring the world up to date with the other side of Kenny Rogers. That's not the other side. I should say another side. It's not the other side. It's just another facet. And, you know, I think it's important that people understand where people came from, because a lot of the things that you talked about all stemmed back from the early days of your life when, you know, you do stuff that you don't know what you're doing when you're doing it, but later on, there's lessons in it. And you said, like Kenny liked to have a lesson in everything, you know, which probably stems back from the early days back in Houston where, you know, where it all started.
Yeah, that's probably very true. And especially, you know, with my dad, he had a rough time with Kenny as far as growing up, and Kenny had a rough time with him because of his drinking problem. You know, because like what's his name said, Kenny didn't drink. I never saw him even on New Year's or anything. So he didn't like people that did.
Mm.
But so he had a hard time with my dad. But you know, that's another story.
Yep, another story for another time. So with that being said, thank you so much, Mr. Roy Rogers. And folks, we've been talking with Roy Rogers, as you can see from the name right behind me on the screen. And if you enjoyed this segment, please feel free to
vote for me.
Huh?
Vote for me.
Vote for me. Vote for me. Vote. That's right. Today's election day too. Some election day somewhere here. But go down the bottom right-hand side of your screen and hit that subscribe button. You'll get everyone. And we want to thank our guest for this segment, Mr. Roy Rogers. Roy, let's go out with a blaze of glory.
All right, I'm going.
Okay, buddy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.